Hello and welcome to this edition of the Intermodal Logistics Podcast, sort of live from Long Beach at the Intermodal EXPO from the Intermodal Association of North America, or IANA. I'm Kevin Baxter, and I'm joined by my co-host for this edition, InTech Logistics President, Shelly Austin. Hi, Shelly.
Hi, Kevin.
And our guest for this edition, we are excited to have on to talk CSX, one of the major Class 1 railroads out there. And joining us is Lauren Eskew, Director Sales, Rail Assets. Lauren, thanks very much for taking the time.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, Lauren, first of all, we always like, for a new guest that we've never had on before, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background in the industry, and what you do for CSX.
Yeah, so I'm, like you mentioned, I'm the director of our Rail Asset Sales team. So I lead a group of 7 team members that sell a rail asset product. And so my team sells that to IMCs who are asset light or non-asset to give them a solution to sell to their BCOs. I've been at CSX for 10 years. The whole time has been in intermodal. So I started out as an analyst, really creating reports, arming the sales team with data so they can go and sell to their customers. And then I've had a few different roles over the last 10 years. I called on BCOs for a number of years. And then I moved into this position about 3 years ago.
And how much have you come to this conference over that period of time?
This is my 3rd IANA.
Okay.
Yeah. So once I moved into this role, I was given the esteemed pleasure to join the IANA conference, and it's been a wonderful 3 years.
Are your feet hurting yet?
No.
Oh, okay.
I've learned over the years to wear flats when you can and try to limit how much you walk. So if you can have all of your conference rooms and your meetings in one location, you're much better that way.
Very smart.
Yeah.
Very smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, the heels went bye-bye after the first couple of years. Gotta tell
I
you.
know you've talked about the shoes a few times.
I'm telling you. Yeah.
Got to be the shoes,
Some
right?
painful feet in the past.
Yes, very much.
A lot of Band-Aids. A lot of Band-Aids.
So let's start with as you sell intermodal to shippers.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the key things that you point out to them as the advantages of using it?
Yeah, so we work with, like I mentioned, the IMCs or brokers. And so depending on the product that we're selling, so we have a ramp-to-ramp and a door-to-door product. On the door-to-door side specifically, some of the advantages that we have is we really have it look and feel just like a truck move. So a lot of the brokers that we work with don't really have a lot of experience with the intermodal shipments. They don't really understand like what is a dray and what is a gate reservation and how do I request boxes. And so on the Rail Plus side, on our door-to-door product, we really handled that for them from soup to nuts. So it makes it look and feel just like a truck move, and it really eliminates a lot of the barriers to entry for an intermodal shipment and allows them to really get their feet wet and understand what an intermodal shipment could look and feel like. Once that broker really gets comfortable enough with moving enough on the Rail Plus side, then we can help them on the ramp-to-ramp side if that's a market that they want to go into. So if they have a dray market that they have enough dray capacity in, or they've started to establish relationships there, then we can kind of help them understand how that would look and feel on the other side. So they have to understand what Bloom is, the way that they would go and request boxes or gate reservations or billing. And so we can really coordinate some training with them on all of the aspects of it. And so really we want to make it easier for them to do business with us. And so we want to eliminate the barriers either on the Rail Plus side or the ramp to ramp side and really try to grow the business as best we can.
Mm-hmm. And so mechanically, you mentioned, you're working with IMCs too. So they come to you and then you help to sort of like solve that next level of the or answer some questions and smooth out the process basically at that point.
Yep, that's exactly right. So depending on their level of experience, we'll try to find a solution that helps solve their problem. And so if they're newer and they say, hey, we're really uncomfortable with this Bloom system, and I'm just making that as an example, it's not necessarily the case, but or we don't understand how to create a waybill on your Ship CSX program, right? We don't really want to get involved. Okay, fine. You don't have to worry about that. We'll take that on. We'll move it in our Rail Plus product, and that way you don't have to worry about that aspect of it. So we do try to understand like what exactly is the customer's perspective and what is some of their issues or concerns in terms of moving on an intermodal or CSX product, and take that away so we can help really convert that traffic.
So, Lauren, we've been very, fortunate to be able to work with both of your products.
Yeah.
And I would say you guys have done such a great job in helping through that. One of the things that we see, Kevin, is that when brokers are starting out, they don't have that drayage network, that trucking drayage. And drayage is different, right? Lauren, when you say it's very different than just having that truck relationship.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of what I call it. You graduate, right? You start out one and you kind of learn on the door program, and then you graduate. And once you start building that drayage network, then you can do a little bit more on the ramp side. And Lauren's group has just been instrumental in helping people like ourselves in tech do that. But one of the things that we find is there's still advantages of both of the products, right? So even once you graduate and you do different things there, I mean the neat part about it is depending on what you're selling or depending on what you're doing, you still get to use both of this or multitude of the services that CSX offers, which is a huge win for us because we want to give the absolute best solution to our customers.
Yeah, it's definitely not a one or the other type of situation. And we have customers that move in both, and it's really dependent on where do they have dray capacity or where do they not have dray capacity, or do they have enough to cover a certain amount of loads and they've got a couple more where they might need some extra capacity to serve their customer. And so we'll see many IMCs, large and small, supplement with both ramp-to-ramp and door-to-door products.
So how is Rail Plus different than just, the idea of traditional intermodal then?
Yeah, so we handle everything. So a customer will tender us a load and they just say, hey, it's going to pick up here and deliver here, and we coordinate everything else from there. So once we know that we have that load, we'll coordinate the pickup appointment, we'll coordinate the delivery appointment. We handle getting the box, and then working with their drayage provider to bring the box to the shipper to get filled. They handle, gate reservations. I say they, but like our drayage partner, they'll handle getting the gate reservations. So that way the customer itself, the broker, the IMC, they don't have to do any of that. And so that makes it more unique than really any other traditional intermodal product, because everybody in the other traditional sense, they manage all of that themselves. So, as I think about our ramp to ramp piece, those customers, they'll handle the drayage, they'll handle the pickup and delivery appointments, they do the gate reservations, they do the billing, all of that. Whereas on the Rail Plus side, we do that, us and through our operations arm. And so it takes away all of the barriers, especially, as you think about like some of those smaller customers that really just want to understand intermodal a little bit more. They might not have the manpower. Maybe they understand it, but they don't really have a lot of team members to handle all of those pieces. So we take that on for them and we manage it. Really from pickup to delivery and everything else in between. So paperwork and administrative duties, customer service work, all of that, we handle it. So it really makes it easy for customers to ship on intermodal.
Yeah, I mean, you want to take away, there's always people, you've mentioned already, there's people who have sort of some preconceptions. Oh, this is too complicated. Oh, I don't even know how to get started. So you just take that away and you want to broaden the reach, really.
Yep, that's exactly right.
So Lauren, one of the things that I think is really cool, especially for listeners that aren't as known on the intermodal side, is your East Coast, your core. People always think, well, I have to have these long miles to do intermodal. But that's really not the case. There's some really cool intermodal opportunities that are not as long miles. So maybe kind of touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard the same thing over the years, right? Like a lot of customers think like, hey, it's got to be 700, 800, 900 miles to make an intermodal shipment work. But because the CSX core network is actually, it's pretty, it's large. It's a large rail network. But our length of haul is much shorter than when you think about the railroads on the western half of the United States. And so where we see a lot of success is intermodal shipments with length of haul 500 miles or greater. Obviously, you don't want a long dray because that really offsets it. But we do see success in a lot of intermodal opportunity with 500 miles as the total length of haul. And our network supports that. We've got really fast service. We've got terminals all over the eastern half of the United States where we offer service that's very truck competitive and really helps compete with that short length of haul, because that is sometimes where you run into that issue as well.
Yeah, and I think it's really cool. I mean, for people that are just getting into the intermodal space, you guys have a whole lot of tools that, don't be shy to send over lanes, even if you're not sure. You guys can very quickly help identify
Yep.
what are some really good lanes. And I
Mhm.
think traditionally, people have always just not even considered those shorter
Yep.
miles, and there's some really powerful opportunities there
Mhm.
that help us convert from truck, that's what we're all here talking about, is how
That's
we
right.
grow our intermodal
That's
space,
exactly right.
and I
Yep.
think that's a big piece of it.
Yep.
Is you got to consider those shorter miles.
Yep, that's exactly right. And so we've talked about this
Yeah.
before, but the highway to rail optimizer tool that we have, we've built it in house, but really it allows us to really look at network. It could be a shipper network, it could be an IMC network, whoever's network it is. We match that network with the CSX network, and it basically says anything with the total length of haul 500 miles or greater, total dray less than 250 miles, and truck-like service. It will spit out those results, so to speak, and it'll tell you like, hey, these lanes are a really good fit. This is how it would route. This is what we estimate would be the transit time and what the service would look like. And then we can share that back with our customers and say, hey, we know that we've talked about like that shorter length of haul, and here's a really good example of one that you typically might not have looked at before, but through this optimizer process, we found that it is a good fit for intermodal, and maybe we should consider that again.
Yeah, and I think, Kevin, in our space, being an IMC and a 3PL, like that helps us expand for our customers, right? Because for us, we're trying to educate them, and instead of us going out and going on 20 different websites to put in, origin and destination pairings, the railroads such as CSX, they have the tools already built, so they help us in be smarter and more educated to our customers to help them get to that point. And I just love the fact that those tools are available.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, we want to make it easy to do business with CSX, and so if those tools exist, and maybe there's something that we don't know of that we need to think about, but we want to continue to find ways that help our customers succeed in the marketplace, and if that's one of the ways that we can do it and we can do more of it, we're happy to do that at any point.
Well, the speed thing is probably the thing that surprises people on the shorter length ones, because that's where there's always that concern about the truckload speed versus intermodal speed.
Yep.
So you've addressed that, really.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely takes into account like what do we think truck-like service would be in this shorter length of haul, and where we've seen successes, it's not exactly the same speed as truck-like. Like some customers can take an extra day on the transit time, so it's truck-like plus 1 or 2, but generally speaking, it's fast, it's competitive, and some customers can absorb that extra lead time in their transit.
Yeah, I'll say, Kevin, from our side, I mean, there's some of the East Coast lanes that we felt like it just ingated, and all of a sudden we're scrambling to get a delivery appointment, because you were like, whoa, it was on a train, but that was really quick.
Yes.
And that's kind of a great feeling to have.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, that was really quick.
Well, and it's interesting when you think about like our network is we run really fast trains too. So our main corridors where you see really fast service are Chicago to New Jersey in the Northeast down to Florida, and then Florida back up to Chicago. And so a lot of those lanes, they're longer length of haul generally, but they're very fast. And we have very quick service that is very competitive. And we have other lanes too that don't necessarily fall in that main triangle that are very fast as well. But we constantly look at our service and say, where do we need to be? Does this service make sense? We work very closely with our partners internally to look and see, like, are we performing to our schedule? Are we beating our schedule? Because then maybe we need to make adjustments to our schedule to show that faster transit time if we're actually doing that. And so those are things that we're always doing on our side, because we do want to make sure that the schedule that we're putting out and we're publishing to our customers is competitive, is truck-like, and it helps convert traffic to intermodal.
Yeah, so I mean, the highway to rail optimizer seems like it sort of covers. You just said, you have like the traditional lanes that people are pretty familiar with, but that allows people to figure out, like, well, maybe in my particular situation, there's something here too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, people think about that main corridor, but there's a lot of other lanes that we service, and it also looks at our UP lanes as well that we have an interline solution with, so we can look transcontinentally, which is really nice.
Yeah. And even beyond the, not beyond the continent. It's all the continent. But beyond the borders of the United States, you also have service arrangements with Mexico
We do.
as well. So, so what are some of the opportunities that you've seen and have developed especially in these last couple of years?
Yeah, so we don't have Mexico for Rail Plus, so it's specifically on the ramp to ramp side. And again, we work with UP on that. But we've grown a Mexico service in and out of Mexico over the last few years. And so one of the ways that we've done that is we added a crosstown in Chicago. So lanes where we don't necessarily have a lot of density, wouldn't necessarily warrant a steel wheel connection over to the Union Pacific. We created a block. Well, the block existed over Chicago, but we can put Mexico traffic in that Chicago block, do a crosstown to UP, and then UP can continue that down to Mexico. Same thing on the northbound side. And that's been successful. You talk about Mexico, you talk about nearshoring, all of those things, and it's a growing market, right? There is a lot of initiatives going on in Mexico, and we want to be a part of that. Mm-hmm. And we've seen success, and a lot of that has come from the rubber tire crosstown service that we've added over Chicago.
Yeah, we even heard from Larry Gross this morning that the Mexico numbers have increased, and I think it's because the railroads have all worked together to find these additional services to make it a better product.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, it seems like it's definitely been a focus in recent years, and that's again, you kind of win people with service when they're maybe not sure. They're used to just using truck all the time, but if they know that this is going to work, then they'll be more willing to jump on it.
Yep, absolutely.
So we talked about a bunch of different things, but is there one particular place that you'd suggest folks go to learn more?
Yeah, if anybody wants to learn more, intermodal.com is a great website. It's ours. We own that, and we put all different kinds of things on there about CSX, Intermodal, Rail Plus. So there's a lot of resources on there. There's also a forum where you can connect with an expert. And so anybody can put their name in, contact information, and that will feed into one of our team members' inboxes, depending on the service that somebody would be interested in. And then somebody will call and certainly talk through how we can try to help that person.
Also, a lot of great statistics and resources there too.
Yes,
I know.
Absolutely. Yep.
I've used it a few times in some research too. So.
There's some great information on that website. It's wonderful.
Well, Lauren, we appreciate you taking the time to join us here at Expo, and great.
Happy to do it. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining us on this edition of the Intermodal Logistics Podcast. Please do rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts. Drop us a comment as well. You can also email us at podcast@intechlogistics.com if you have any longer questions you'd like answered. And visit our website, www.intechlogistics.com, for more about Intech Logistics, the company. For Shelley Austin, I'm Kevin Baxter. Thanks very much for joining us for this edition, and we'll be back again soon.